Well, hey there, YouTube. PD Two Finger here. I had done a video. Basically, I was on a video editing marathon, which I need to get back into that video editing. I still got more work to do before we take a trip to go pick up the new mixer. Got an unbelievable deal. Paid about a third of the price for a battery-powered Behringer 1002B, which is like a 10-channel battery-powered mixer that's more legit than what we're using. What we're using is fine, but it's not very sturdy. What we're using has a USB interface, which we don't use. It would be really nice to use that, like if I had a laptop that I could connect that to and record line in multi-track audio. I don't know how I couldn't do multi-track. I could do a 2-track master recording and capture a line in live performances. But the cheap solution for a more robust mixer, which is the problem, we're unplugging and plugging everything in on this and moving it around, and it's plastic. It's just not the best. It's really portable solution. I think what I'm going to end up putting together is going to be a little bigger, and it's going to be more powerful. It's going to be a more powerful amp board. It's considerably more powerful. It's going to be running on double the electricity, like 48 volts instead of 24. And then using this real board that's metal, has sliders, which I really like. So there goes my birthday money, gone as soon as I got it. I need to get a microphone. The mic on our webcam mic is bad. It's cockeyed. Like it's stereo and one channel is really quiet. So there was a passive mic that was like 13. They went up to 20. Like right when I get the money to maybe buy one, the price goes up. So maybe that's a warning to me to not get that mic and get an active one that runs on a battery. I don't know how to read the specs so much. I see that the specs are a little different, but I don't know what that means. And I'm guessing I should use my head and think, mic with a battery, it's going to be hotter, there's going to be more high-end, there's going to be more low-end. Mic without a battery, it's going to be quieter, there isn't going to be as much sparkle on it. So, get the mic with the battery. Because I don't want to be processing the audio so much. I'd rather have really good source footage. Anyway, looking at this comment, I'm in the middle of this video editing marathon. I'm pushing myself. I had one of these weeks where I can't keep my eyes open. Ever since 2016, when I had my severe reaction to this medicine and got really sick for a quarter of a year, I have some bad weeks, and they're really bad. It's really tough to make through that. And I had a bad week this last week, so I'm at the end of my wits' end, editing videos. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. Ding dong, I got a message, and it's some guy. He's built this circuit that I did a demo for, but he's asking me a question about every single thing he could possibly ask about, like wiring it up, the switch not popping, power filtering, modifying it, using germanium instead of silicon, using a Sizlaki, which is 2 germanium transistors combined, and then some transistor I had never heard of. And no one on the pedal forums was talking about it. Like I'm supposed to know every transistor. Anyway, I told the guy, look, I built mine stock, and I love it. And when I ask people to work for free, I give them a link so they can click and the schematic will come up, and that makes it's It's less like, hey, I want you to figure all this shit out for me, and on top of it, you're going to have to go Googling to find the schematic of what I'm talking about. And he came back right away, avoiding the question. This is what I want. I want a bypass switch. I don't want it to pop. His list of demands. So I went to his channel and found his music. One of the things was a cover of The Sound of Silence. And there was a song by the Hollies. And so the name of my response video is The Sound of Silence. And I go through point by point and try to deal with everything. This is a 45-minute video. And I guess I was supposed to type all that out at 6 in the morning to this guy. Anyway, one of the things I talked about in that video was he was using a multimeter to test germaniums, and you can't do that. So I get a response in the Sound of Silence video from a guy who calls himself Pedal Science. And he says, is it due to the leakage that cheap multimeters don't work for testing germanium transistors? I have a similar cheapo meter, and it seems to be giving reasonable gain measurements for some OC75 transistors I tested, but I understand they could be off by 10 to 20%. So I took a look at this guy, Pedal Science. Go to his channel. He's got a background image of a computerized schematic, and I do not recognize what that is. Very well could be an effect unit. His channel, Pedal Science, has 326 subscribers, and it's excellent. He just did the Boss Wazacraft analog delay, and then he does analog versus digital delay, clean and dirty. Compares the, looks like a Boss DD5, DD7, DD3, whatever, versus and I'll tell you what, like I saw Ingrid Malmsteen live, and he was very clearly using the analog delay, because you can do some things with that don't sound as good with the digital, but I always prefer the digital delay. Now I'm getting sidetracked here. This guy, dude, you've got such cool equipment. You've got such nice stuff. You deserve way more subscribers. If this is a dick measuring contest, if this is all about your gear, you've done really, really well. You've got very, very impressive and well done pedal demos. He's got an album called Cosmic Jokes. So if you love this type of stuff like I love it, go over and subscribe to this guy. He's awesome. I see him doing some really interesting things, comparing a color sound power boost versus a, what do you call that, tube boost that Gilmore uses. You put a big muff down, and then after that you either have this color sound power boost or the tube boost to get Gilmore tones. So he's doing a lot of really cool stuff with a lot of really cool gear. Moog Ring Mod versus Eventide. Oh my goodness, dude. You've got, there's the Shinai Companion FY2. Let me check that one out. Octavia versus Univox Super Fuzz. Really cool stuff. That's actually on my list. That's Shinai. But I mean, I've got the Boss FZ2, and I've got a legitimate, really properly made Univox Super Fuzz. So it's like, do I need that? It's kind of more of the same thing, but a little different. Boss CS3 versus CS2 versus CS1. dude, you did such a good job with your channel. I've got to tell you. Now back to your question. Okay. Pedal Science asked me, is it due to the leakage that cheap multimeters don't work for testing germanium transistors? I have a similar cheapo meter and it seems to give reasonable gain measurements for some OC75 germanium transistors I tested, but they could be off by 10 to 20%. So what he's talking about is these transistors leak. They leak electricity. It's something you can't see it, but you can hear it. You need to find one that's the proper gain, or HFE is what it's measured in. But then the right amount of leakage, because if it's leaking a little bit, it's okay. It's actually good. If it's leaking a lot, and not good. So this is where ordering these transistors in bulk and then testing them, painstakingly testing them, you'll find that the ones you order in bulk have already been picked through and that people have removed all the good ones. That's just how it works. You can say, oh no, they just sell them and they don't test them at first. I buy them bulk all the time and get good ones. Do you? Well, I'd love to know where you're buying them, because every time I've done it, I've gotten ripped off and bad. Meaning they're supposed to be between 50 and 100 HFE. They're all in the 30s. Out of 50, I had 3 that were above 40. And the highest one, 41. So that was an eBay case where I had to really document it well and get an eBay operator and explain to her. And she looked through the photo documentation where I had pictures of the meter set up with the germanium test rig, RG Keen's test rig. So we're going to attempt to, Pedal Science, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. I don't want to be the guy that every time someone comments, I make a video and tear them to pieces. Because this is a fair question, what he said, and he's right. If you look at RG Keen's article, which is the Bible on doing this, I believe he says right in the first paragraph there that you can use a cheap, a DMM, a digital multimeter. Forget cheap. You can use a digital multimeter to do this, but they don't compensate for gain. They're set up for silicon transistors. I have a Heathkit transistor tester, which is a big unit. It runs off a couple of internal D batteries. It's analog. It's got VU meters on it. It's complicated, big manual. You plug the transistors in, and sure enough, the knob, the selector, one of the switches on there is for germanium. And that figures in that this thing's going to be leaking. So that's some really cool thing that I have that I don't really use. I wanna read. If anyone wants to buy it, get a hold of me. It's yours for the right price. So my response: I'm guessing cheap meters are not made for this type of transistor. Yes, this DMM HFE test does not figure for leakage, but also the DMM test may not even be reliable in itself beforehand, especially the super cheapos. Make sense? Question mark. They are made for modern silicon actives, as they stopped making germaniums a long time ago. The main problem with my cheapo meter is the fact that it doesn't even make connection. Well, then when I actually built the RG Keen test rig, the numbers are vastly unalike. I think I'll change it to different. So yeah, that's my answer. And taking a look, there is a Tone Fiend article, Indispensable DIY Tool. John Cusack, the pedal builder, not the actor, recently turned me on to one of the best DIY tools I've ever owned, the multi-function tester TC1. Now, there's Atlas DCA 55 or whatever. Then there's the cheap red one you get for $15 on eBay. And I need to, this is, again, it's ending a video with another question. I wish I had more answers. I don't. John's Michigan shop manufactures the pedals I designed, and we were trying to pinpoint the optimal gain, or HFE, for germanium transistors in 2 of the new pedals I'm about to release. I've been using a multimeter to test for gain, which is measured in terms of HFE. An old germanium transistor might have had HFE of 50, while a new silicon Darlington transistor, such as an MPS-8 may have a gain in the range of 5,000. As you can imagine, it's a crucial measurement for any stop box that employs transistors. But like many before me, I encountered 2 big problems. First, most multimeters don't have an HFE function. Even the expensive $100 plus fluke meters don't have this feature. But to be fair, we're talking about antique transistor technology, which is pretty much extinct in most modern electronics. You're more likely to find an HFE tool on a cheaper, more obscure model of multimeter. So I've been using a bunch of cheap-ass Chinese multimeters just to measure the HFE. But there's another problem. Those multimeter HFE tests are notorious for their inaccuracy. They're especially prone to overstating the actual gain. So, yeah, he's recommending the TC1, I want to say TCI, it's TC1 multifunction tester at $54. Someone posted you can find them for $25. I know I paid $14 for mine, and it's slightly different. So these are available on eBay, and he says it's more useful than I could have imagined. First off, it gives accurate HFE readings to 1/100th of an HFE unit, works with silicon and germanium, BJT, FET, JFETs, and MOSFETs. And dig this, it doesn't matter which way you orient the pins. It knows which leg is which. So no more jumping online to verify the pinout of the particular part. This is where I take issue with what he's saying here, because I did the same thing and then somebody tipped me off. Dino from Dead End Effects let me know. You can't trust that. He said, do yourself a favor. When you have one of those 3-legged parts in there, their gain, source, and drain is the name of the 3 pins on this transistor. It's called JFET. And there's a lot of fakes. A lot of times the pinout is wrong or different than what you think, and it'll screw you up. It's a nightmare. You think playing around with germaniums is bad? Once you get to JFETs, then you'll be hating life. Unless you get the tiny SMT version and an adapter daughter board, solder it to that, and then it's like, it's consistent that way. So that's what I've been doing. But Dino said, put that thing in there and look at what it says. It'll say like GSD. It'll tell you that's what the pins are. G, S, and D. Then pull it out and flip it around and plug it in, and what does it say it is? G, S, and D. And it should have flipped around 180 degrees, but not the case with mine. Mine's the red $14 one, runs off a 9-volt battery, comes with a clear case, or you can just get it without the case. I don't have a model number. I don't know about the DCA Atlas. I don't know about the TC1. It would be really wonderful to know, are these things accurate, the more expensive ones? Do they, in fact, when you flip it around, tell you what it really is? So I hate to leave this with a question, but pedal science, yes, you're right. It is the fact that these new cheap multimeter testers that have the HFE, they don't figure for HFE. But I'm going to add to that in the first place, they're not accurate. Okay, yeah, you're right. It doesn't figure in for HFE, but also they're just ridiculous. They put that on there like it does this, but it doesn't really. It's a mismanufacturing claim. It's not. It really doesn't. Those tests, when you're building germanium transistors, the best way to measure the gain is to read R.G. Keene's article and build his little test rig. There's Vero layout for it at Tagboard Effects. I built mine on a little piece of scrap wood and made a little base out of it, and you put the transistor in and then you let go of it and you wait. And the other thing is temperature. You want to do it in the same temperature room. Like if you're doing this at multiple times during your life, put the air conditioner on and put it at 75 degrees and just always make sure it's 75 degrees in your house when you do it, because any temperature variation will affect that number. And what I found was it was so frustrating to do because you would put a transistor in there and the number would be there and it would be dropping. 5 minutes later, it would stabilize, and finally it would stop, and it would drop a number and come up, drop a number and come up, and then you're like, okay, it's done. So I don't know if that's because I warmed them up when I touched it, when I touched the legs of it, if the heat went up the legs and warmed it up and that affected the number, if it's from just turning it on. I don't know why they were doing that, but I found it to be unbelievable, painstakingly, like you need to have like some YouTube to watch or a video game to play. Don't just do that. Do that as your secondary thing and have something to keep your attention, because if you're going to sit there and stare at those, let's say you got 50 transistors to test, you're going to be there all day. It's going to be like 3 hours, and you're better off having something else to do. Edit some video, play a video game, but that's the most accurate way to do it. The other way would be to use these machines that you plop it in there, and instantly it tells you what the gain in the HFE is. But more accurately is that test that I'm talking about. So it just depends on how far you want to go. I mean, if you're the type of person that's really meticulous, then do that test. If you've got a bunch of transistors to go through and you don't have the time to wait 3 minutes for each one of them to stabilize, spend the $15 and get the little multi-tester and be done with it. The other step that you definitely don't want to forget to do is listen with your ears, because you might not like what the guy who wrote the article likes. The guy who wrote the article might like something different, and that's what we tend to fail to consider logically with this internet guitar gear syndrome, is what tone you like. No offense, Pedal Science, I hated your tone on your 300 subscriber special. I really did not like your tone, and I like what you played. It was very kind of Gilmore inspired, I would say. I hate to say that, but that's what I heard, and it was very original. It was as original as you can get, where only a guitar player who's a huge Pink Floyd fan like myself would see that. Okay? And I can't do Dave Gilmour like that. That was all I listened to for the first 10 years I was coming up, was Pink Floyd. I had all the Dave Gilmour solo albums. I've seen all of his live DVDs. I love the guy. He's one of my top favorite guitar players, and I couldn't even come close to what this guy was playing as far as playing in a style of David Gilmour, but original. But I really don't like his tone in that video. So that's why you can't really take anything seriously that you read on the internet. If some guy's going, the best sound I ever got out of a guitar was this amp, this cabinet, this pedal with this guitar set up like this, you might not like that sound. it's probably a standout sound because it's probably different, and there's a big chance it's just not for you. So we got to be really careful, open-minded, and think objectively rather than narrow-minded. Everything sucks except for what's on my pedal board right now. And if somebody wants to know what tuner they use, they have to use a Boss tuner, because that's the one that I bought when I was 18, and I still have it. I've never tried the Pitch Black. I've never tried, what is that thing that you clip on that falls and breaks? Those types of tuners. I've never tried a Peterson Strobo tuner, but flat out, without any type of discussion, I've only ever played through a Boss TU3, and that's you can't argue. The best tuner in the world is a Boss TU3. That's the only thing I have ever played through, and everything else is fucking garbage. And that's what I see on the internet, is this unbelievable, closed-minded, like, just bullshit. You know? I see a lot of guys who are at open mics with like one earring and a leather jacket, and they've got their hair, and they're sitting. There's nobody on the drum kit, and there'll be some picture taken of them. It almost seems like they went to a bar where there is an open mic, and they brought their guitar, and they sat there and had their girlfriend take a picture. And then that picture will be edited. It's Happy Easter, 4th of July. He's got a flag on it. Then Christmas, here's the wreath. I see a lot of those musicians that will always come in and put themselves above everyone else and go, well, whenever I'm on my stage in front of thousands of people, it's like, get out of here, dude. The only time you were on stage is when you walked up there to have your girlfriend take that fucking picture. And I see a lot of that because the people who are happy and successfully making music, they're not on those musician-only forums trying to put other people down. They're like this guy. They're making killer content. They're home at home playing. They don't have time to go on the internet and to tear people to pieces and try to put themselves above some other guy and get some angle to because of their insecurity. So if you ever find yourself in a position where someone's giving you some grief or copping you an attitude, I'm not recommending you let it go. I'm not recommending you start a flame war. I'm not recommending you anything except for take into consideration the fact that this guy's a bozo. Because really, people who are secure in what they do and doing well at this hobby, they don't really go out and start shit. They don't have a thing to prove. They'll have a band camp where they'll try to sell their stuff or whatever, and that's a whole nother topic that I could get into. That, according to me, is really just setting yourself up for disappointment. But because the number one thing that people should learn through all of this internet music sharing is that people don't care about your music. You might have some people who are going to be nice to you about it, but there's a motive there if they're being nice. People don't care. And all of this, Andy Warhol's 15 Minutes of Fame, it's dangerous for your up here, for your ego. It just feeds that dark stuff. So, and I'm not saying I'm immune. I get messed up by this stuff just like the next guy, and I'm just saying that I think it's healthy for ourselves for us to be aware of the fact of who we really are. That we're the same little kid we were at 5 years old who didn't even know how to tune a guitar. And at that point, maybe we were even more likable or a better person. Especially if you're going to go around acting like you're some big dick measuring contest, swinging dick. Everybody else is a chump, and you're, David Lee Roth acted a certain way, but he also wore assless chaps with a sock stuffed in the front of his pants, his tights, and was jumping off of stacks of amplifiers doing karate kicks while he was singing in key. So there's that, talk the talk if you can walk the walk, that type of thing. And I think the internet has given room for a lot of bozos and jokers to have a platform and to put themselves out there. And my thing is, I think that the successful musicians, the people who are really producing stuff, none of those people are on any of these places. Those places are just full of bottom feeders. And so what you're going to get is a lot of hate. You're just going to get a lot of negativity. And that's not healthy for anyone. I had signed up to all of these places to try to promote a friend of mine. Well, he's not a friend. He's a professional guitar player that I like. And he was doing some house concerts, and I was going to try to promote him. And so the last, since the lockdown, I've been exposed to all of this internet stupidity relating to music, relating to gear, relating to be a musician, all these places, and I need to quit them all. I'm quitting, I'll go in there, I'll say a couple things, I'll get attacked, people will attack me, I'll leave. I'll go in there, in the next one, I'll say a couple things, because the more you leave one, the more Facebook is throwing another one up for you to see. Oh, this place over here. They want you to find a group where you can fit in. And I'll tell you, the groups where I fit in are the cat forums. The places where people take pictures of their kitty cats and put them up. Those are the best ones. I'm telling you. The internet and cats. It's a perfect mix. Everyone's nice. No one's out to try to make their cat better than yours. They're all cute in their own way. I found my home. All right, you guys. I'll talk to you soon. And hey, go over to that Pedal Science guy and subscribe to him. Awesome, awesome stuff. Pedal Science, you should be very proud of yourself. And you got a new subscriber, and I'll probably bother you with commenting too much there. I just hit subscribe to your channel. I just hit the bell notification all. Okay, guys. I'm going to let you go. See ya.